Hi, welcome back to the channel with Karl and Donald. A couple of things I've noticed in the news this week which are kind of related and I want to make a comment about. So basically on the news there was a number of vegans at a supermarket blocking people to get to the meat aisle when they were preaching about how important it was to make people aware of the cruelty to animals and how animals suffer from people that have a meat diet. And then secondly, I watched Winter Watch this week and they were talking about the major issues that wildlife have down in Poole with the incredibly increase in algae on the shores, which is then preventing certain birds to get hold of the food that they need over the winter. And guess what's causing the algae? So it's the high nitrate quality of the water that's seeping into the rivers, that's flowing into the sea, which is causing the algae to get out of control and is causing major issues. So I thought I'd just do a little bit of an investigatory work on this, and with the help of Donald obviously, look into it in a bit more detail. And these vegans get very, very preachy, and I'm quite happy to have a debate with any vegan that wishes to do so. So if any vegans are watching this and disagree with what I'm saying, DM me and we'll set up a conversation and we'll be courteous and genuine with each other, but I would like to get some answers from a vegan point of view. So the issue that I have, obviously, firstly with the algae scenario, was algae is getting out of control on the coastlines and in the rivers, which is then making it almost impossible for birds of this time of year that live off the food that's in the muds and all that around the coastline. And Winter Watch made a real good, fair, balanced point of view in there. So why are these nitrates getting into the water? Well, it's from arable farming, basically. I'm not knocking the farmers. I think they have a tough job and I'm a big fan of the farmers and I'm all supporting the farmers. But when you go to arable growing, and because the soils now are so depleted of nutrients, it's fertilisers and various chemicals that are going into the fields that are leaching from the soils into the rivers, from the rivers into the coastline, causing this major upheaval, as well as damaging any animals and wild animals and their habitats on the way to the water as well. As well as the massive farming issues that destroys the habitats of moles and mice and field mice and the various other insects that are affected because of the spraying of the crops and the chemicals with pesticides and herbicides. So I find it a little bit drawing that these vegans turn around and talk about the animal quality and the cruelty to animals when someone on a vegan diet is directly responsible for masses, if not millions and billions and trillions of our insects and our wildlife being affected to provide the wheats, the barleys, the grains and all that. And then you got the classic, the classic vegan go-to food, which is the avocado. Now avocado, if you actually look at avocado, one, does more climate change than any cow fart will ever do, because they're having to be flied from areas like California. And in order to get the avocado crops like they do, they bring in millions and millions of bees in order to create the avocado in the production side of it. And then bees are then just destroyed. So get off your high horse, look a little bit inside your own way of eating and take a level of responsibility before you start blaming people that eat meat. So a carnivore basically over the course of a year would eat the equivalent of a cow, where you're responsible for millions and millions of destruction of habitats and lives of all sorts of insects and animals throughout the whole food chain. And so stop getting higher and almighty. Now, I'm a big fan of permaculture. That's where animal farming and arable and growth farming come hand in hand, because if you look at it, cattle, sheep, they don't live on perfectly flat farming land. Quite often their sheep especially are in the hills, areas where you can't grow crops, etc. Cows quite similar. So they fertilise that soil, that the bacteria and all that use, that then break it down, and then the whole animal lifespan, the whole chain benefits from, and it refertilises the soil in order to give goodness and back without using artificial additives. So I do think it's really a tall order for vegans to point the finger at carnivores and blame them for animal cruelty. I think the old expression of throwing stones in a greenhouse. So look in yourselves before you get all preachy and start blaming carnivores for animal cruelty, when more animals and insects and bird life and all sorts of wildlife, sea life, water life, all suffer from your need to grow arable crops. Thank you. Rant over. Thank you, Donald. I'm glad you agree. Now let's go and have a steak.